In this edition of the Parliament Report, NEI study shows poor performances in primary and high schools. Regulations for sex offenders registry passed in the House, and UDC in the hot seat at PAAC. A study conducted by the National Education Inspectorate, the NEI, has unveiled worrying data about the performance of a number of public schools. The NEI is reporting that approximately one-third or 45 of 135 primary and secondary schools surveyed are receiving educational services rated as unsatisfactory. The Inspectorate carried out an inspection of 135 schools in Regions 1 and 2 comprising the parishes of Kingston and St. Andrew, St. Thomas, Portland, and St. Mary. In a report tabled in the House of Representatives on December 11, the NEI said leadership and management in 3% of the schools were rated as exceptionally high, 22% as good, and 36% as satisfactory. These met the minimum requirement. However, the management and leadership in 35% of the schools inspected were rated as unsatisfactory, and 4% as in need of immediate support. Education Minister Ronald Thwaites described the results of the NEI study as mediocre, with some striking deficits. In the area of teaching support, the study showed that 13% were rated as good and 45% satisfactory. At the same time, 40% were rated as unsatisfactory and 2% in need of immediate support. The NEI noted that in 45% of the primary schools inspected, teaching was rated as insufficient. Students' performances in mathematics and English were also reviewed. The NEI found that 63% were performing below the national averages, while 11% achieved above the national averages in the two subjects. Another 19% fell in line with the national averages. The progress of students was good to exceptional in 9% of the schools inspected, while 36% were reported as being satisfactory. However, 53% of the students assessed in terms of their academic progress were rated unsatisfactory, and 2% in need of immediate assistance. The NEI inspections were conducted between September 2010 and March 2011. Opposition members of Parliament Olivia Grange and Shahini Robinson broke ranks and voted with the government side to pass the regulations for the Sex Offenders Registry on December 11. The regulations were not passed without intense debate, leading to a dramatic divide at the committee stage. 25 members voted yea and 5 against with 2 abstentions. Only 33 of the 63 members of Parliament were present at the time of the vote. The Speaker of the House was not required to vote. Senior opposition members Carl Semuda and Dr. Horace Chang voted to abstain. Leader of opposition business in the House, Delroy Chuck, led the way in voting against the regulations with support from Pernell Charles, Marissa Dalrymple Philibert, Gregory Mayer, and Dr. Ken Ball. Charles had earlier raised serious objections to aspects of the regulation. He charged that members of the public should have unfettered access to sex offenders registry. The North Central Clarendon MP also wants the police to have responsibility for maintaining the registry and not the Department of Correctional Services. Charles also wants the names of the parents of the offenders struck from the registry. His concerns were supported by Mayer, who proposed amending the regulations. Chuck asked for the suspension of debate on the regulations to allow members to reach a consensus. But the Attorney General was not in a mood to delay the passage of the regulations, noting that the Sex Offences Act was passed on July 17, 2009. He told the House that the law could not be in effect because there were no regulations. The regulations were tabled on October 16. And finally, in the Parliament report, a Parliamentary Oversight Committee on December 12 questioned whether the Urban Development Corporation, the UDC, was frolicking with the country's resources when it purchased a number of abandoned properties. Member of Parliament's Public Administration and Appropriations Committee, Michael Phillips, says he is not satisfied that the UDC carried out proper due diligence when it purchased the $80 million Machado complex in Kingston. Phillips said at the time of the purchase in 2010, The UDC had planned to spend $1.2 billion to refurbish the 3.5-acre complex located at the corner of Victoria Avenue and South Kemp Road to be used as its headquarters. He said it appeared the UDC was never in a position to spend this money to refurbish the property. However, he said the agency went ahead and acquired the property, and the complex is now racking up large monthly expenses. He's of the view that when the property is sold, the UDC will end up with a net loss. The concerns came after the Deputy General Manager in charge of Finance, Treasury and Investment at the UDC, Donald Hamilton, said the company had accumulated losses of nearly $760 million in the first 7 months of this fiscal year. This has been another edition of the Parliament Report. We have been privileged to present highlights from the People's Parliament on Duke Street in Kingston, Jamaica for 2012. Until January 2013, when parliamentary sittings resume, I'm Edmund Campbell wishing you a safe and peaceful holidays.